Salve, salve guitar community! Today's video is about reading jazz charts. Okay, so we'll be discussing what is it like to open a real book and just playing any chart that's in there, how to read some of those chords, which voicing to use, and basically learning the shortcuts, learning the do's and the don'ts. This is a subject that it's more complex than it looks like, so one video probably won't do justice. I hope that I can do more than one, as the needs for some of my students need to advance on that. But today is mostly just the beginning of what it's going to be like. Alright, shall we go on the guitar journey together? Alright, so in this video we will explore three different chord types: a major 7 chord, a dominant 7 chord, and a minor 7 chord. Okay, so basically they each have their purpose, and you see them fluctuating jazz charts all over the place. The first one that I'll show you is the major 7 chord, and here's the C major 7, and you should start to see the shape appear somewhere up there. Where would you use a major 7 chord? A major 7 chord is a substitute for a 1 chord, just the beginning of the song. So rather than using a C chord like you would use for country music, pop music, for jazz, oftentimes you're going to start a song with a major 7 chord. When I was a student, I used to say that the major 7 chord is the sound of love. It's just pretty sound, okay? The other shape that we'll be exploring is the dominant 7 chord. Here's a C7, okay? And the C7, or the dominant 7 chord in general, their job is to lead us somewhere else. So if you're playing a dominant 7 chord, you're not going to stay there. You're not going to start a song with a dominant 7 chord, unless you're playing the blues, really. The blues, sometimes you can't start the song with a dominant 7 chord. The other type we will be exploring is the minor chord with a 7. Here's a C minor 7. The minor 7 chord is used as a transition. Also, you may begin a song with a minor 7 chord. Notice that all the shapes that I gave you, they are barred, and I do not have any open strings. In jazz, if we're talking especially American jazz, we do not use any open strings to play, unless you're playing bossa nova, which today is not about bossa nova. You know that I'm a bossa nova guy, but we're not talking about that today. I'll also show you two other shapes that you can use the dominant 7 chord. Here's another one. Okay. And here's another one. Before you move forward on this video, be sure to be quite familiar with the shape itself. Okay. The main thing when you're reading a chart, a jazz chart, it's usually the real book, and you've never seen that chart before, is that you gotta move quickly and efficiently. Therefore, if you know, for example, multiple ways where you can produce the same chord, it's gonna help you a lot. For instance, here's a G7 chord, in one shape that I would say it's quite familiar to most. Here's a different shape of the G7 chord. And here's the other shape of the G7 chord. And those are only 3 shapes that are available to you. There are more, okay? I don't want to confuse you either. For the minor 7 chord, here you have the C minor 7 that we discussed. Here's a different way where you can do the C minor 7. Okay? I'm going to restrict myself to only that today. I do not want to confuse you, alright? Alright, moving forward with what we're doing today. First, I'll show you an exercise. There are 16 measures, each 4 rows of 4, and I'm going to start the exercise with a C major 7 chord and end the exercise with a C minor chord. Basically, this exercise should be done in multiple ways. First, again, if you're not familiar with the chord shapes, go ahead and make yourself familiar. Make yourself familiar with the fretboard of the guitar. You know, it's impossible for you to try to sight read something because you cannot really be looking at a score and be looking at your fret at your hand at the same time. You can kind of look, but you need to be familiar to a point that it's not going to be the thing you're going to be thinking about. Okay? I will play each chord for you without the metronome. Okay? Just moving through them. I'm going to count to 4, so like every 4 beats. Then I will play them again with the metronome. Alright? And please notice how I'm making those changes, how I'm surfing through the fretboard, which shapes I'm using, why I'm using those shapes. And once I'm done playing maybe twice, after I do both times with and without the metronome, I'll explain why I use those choices for the chord shapes. Okay? So let me get the chart here. And first, without the metronome, let's begin. 1. Hopefully you were able to follow with me, okay? I tried not to go too fast. This time, those of you that are still struggling with going around the fretboard, here's a trick that you can use. And keep in mind that I also do that myself sometimes, depending on how complicated the chord symbols are. And if I'm not familiar with the song enough, if it's in a weird key, I mean, C major, we're fluctuating between keys, but mostly it's in C major. That's fairly easy once you get the hang of. Here's what you can do. The metronome is set at, let's say, you're at the speed of 40. I'm going to put a little faster. I'm going to go all the way to 55. And I'm only going to hit the chord once. But every 4 beats I'm going to switch. So for example, you have a C major 7 here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives you time when you're in one chord. You can look around the fretboard and search for your next change. Okay? That should help you. And then the more familiar you get, then you can start speeding up. Okay? But first, always start at the speed of note mistakes. You should know that by now. So here we go, once again. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, is a time that you should stop the video and try this exercise on your own at a speed that's comfortable for you. Okay? A couple things to keep in mind. For instance, take a look at the second and third chord. You have an E minor 7 going to an A7. Here are the possible places where you could play that. The E minor 7, you can do in other places if you have a larger fretboard that doesn't have this hanging around. But mostly you probably would be doing here. Okay, that only give you two choices for the A7. Here or here. In this case scenario, either one would be correct. Okay, or be acceptable, I would say, because they're both close enough to where the E minor 7 is. Personally, I would do here because you get a better sound. If you're playing against a piano player, the piano player usually will cover this register of the treble clef, so you can be heard if you play it here. Okay. Then you could do the same thing. D minor 7, the fourth chord, the last chord on the first line, going to a G7. So you have a little bit of a sequence. And then pack, you could go to the C7, go here, and then you can repeat the F7 here as well. The other option is going back all the way to the E minor 7. Is you do the E minor 7 here, you do the A7 here. Keep in mind that if you're doing the A7 here, you should probably try to hit on the right hand more the higher strings, okay? So get more sound. This is kind of muffed. The bass player will get in your way, okay? But then, if you play the chord here, you close to the D minor 7. And this really is kind of like a reaction type of thing. The more you do those shapes, the more you start to react in how you want to approach this. One thing for sure is that it's not probably practical for you to play, let's see, let's go on top of the beginning of the second line, you have a G7, and then right after that you have a C7. For you to play the G7 here, and play the C7 here. Unless you're trying to get some effect where you're going. But even then, it's not really practical. If you have a piece that's moving fast, you probably want to do the G7 here, the C7 here, or you probably want to do the G7 here, the C7 here. Even this would be better, but anything that you have to move more than 4 frets in a short period of time, it's not a good choice, okay? So that's what I want you to be mindful about as well. All right, so now I'll have another exercise for you, and keep in mind those exercises, they follow some theory patterns of where you should go as far as, like, if you have a dominant 7 chord, you might go into a major chord, okay? If you have a minor 7 chord, you go to a dominant 7 chord, and then you go to a major 7 chord, or you might just be fluctuating between dominant 7s. The whole purpose of this is that you find some of those sequences in real charts. So hopefully after you watch this video, study everything that's in this video, you open up a real book and try to sight read some of those charts yourself, okay? There are other chord symbols that I would like to show you in a different video. I just don't want to overwhelm you with everything. So I'm trying to keep everything within the chord shapes that I gave you in the first part of the video. Let's go to the chord shapes exercise number 2, okay? So here I'm opening it up and I'm going to do the same thing. First without the metronome, then with the metronome. So here it goes. 1, 2, 3. Once again, this time with the metronome, and I'll do the same thing. I'll play on the downbeat, and then I'll play again on the next downbeat. So, 1, 2, ready, go. 1. Hopefully this video helps you at least get somewhat started in reading jazz charts. I did not discuss anything about right hand technique, or I didn't go into more depth. The whole goal of this video, once again, is for you to, 1, get familiar with the chord shapes, understand the difference of each 7 chord, the major 7 chord, the dominant 7 chord, and the minor chord with a 7 on it, okay? Be able to apply some of the ideas of, for instance, if you're in this area of the guitar and you're looking for a G7 chord, you have 2 options, either here or here. Probably going all the way here, it's not really functional, okay, if you're just comping chords. Understanding that and really just getting familiar with it. If you have any questions, please don't not hesitate to contact me, my students. I'll see you in class. Otherwise, stay playing, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Ciao.